I'm Erin O'Byrne and welcome to Everything EFL podcast. I'm passionate about serving teachers and I offer training for schools and institutions whose language teachers need a little refresher, a change of mindset and some super practical ideas to put into their classrooms straight away. There is no one-size-fits-all lesson plan, but you've got a friend and support system in me. I can help reduce your overwhelm, give you some teacher inspiration, and improve your work-life balance. How? With some solid advice, takeaways you can try out immediately, and some much-needed teacher love, because your well-being is important too. Are you ready to make small changes one step at a time and remember how amazing you are? Let's go! Hello, you gorgeous teacher. If you're one of my lovely regular listeners, welcome back. If you're brand new to Everything EFL podcast, you are most welcome, and I hope you stick around. I just want to tell you about my webinar. It's coming closer. It's on February the 18th. That's a Tuesday. That's 7 p.m. UK time, but don't worry, there will be a replay. It's called Beyond the Gap Fill, Practical Tasks to Get Students Speaking, and it will help you bridge that gap between, the gap fill and the production. We all know everything's a process, okay? You cannot expect your students just to go from gap fill to production and then the next week remember everything. Their brain just doesn't work like that. So I'm going to help you devise a system of tasks, mini tasks and review tasks where you can just revisit constantly. It won't take up too much prep time. You can reuse your materials. You know I'm a big fan of that, and all for absolutely nothing. I will talk about it a little bit at the end as well, so bear with me. This is a short and sweet episode, so we'll get there. Okay, do you ever feel like there's a lull in your lesson? You know what I mean, like the energy levels they're not quite what you want them to be. So I have some thoughts on this, and I'm going to talk about peaks and valleys. Now, I got this idea and information from a presentation by Otavio Oliveira. Sorry for the pronunciation. I think it was an ELT Island conference a couple of years back. My note-taking's terrible. I do apologise, but I'm going to give him credit. But I just thought it was a really nice, simple presentation full of common sense, and I'm going to share it with you today because sometimes we do forget to kind of, switch up the energy, especially if you have a lesson where your students have to concentrate for a slightly longer period of time and the energy levels drop. And I'm sure you've all had that where the energy has just disappeared completely. So I think this idea of peaks and valleys is really nice. So think about, those low energy activities and high energy activities. The lower energy ones are things like reading, writing, anything that takes focus or is sort of generally individual work from the student's perspective. Therefore, they don't move or engage with each other very much. And the other end of the spectrum, we have those high energy activities, your mingling, your games, anything creative, anything with movement, anything with collaboration, anything that keeps students on their toes, the fun stuff, the engaging stuff, if you will. Now, we all know it's not always possible just to have high energy stuff all the time, and I think it would exhaust everybody. And I think, there's some advantages to switching up the energies, and also, this is dependent on age, but even like something like a 30-second brain break, is just... It can work miracles. I actually did this yesterday. I had a class where we did a lot of analysis on a dialogue that I produced, lots of present perfect and past simple. And I just said to them, do you know what? You're going to be sitting down. So halfway through the lesson, I just got them to stand up, stretch a bit, and then I got one person from each pair just to move up around and switch partners, say hello. And it does just inject a little bit of woohoo into the lesson rather than just sitting at the same place for the whole thing. So now, obviously, everybody's different. Do you think it's a good idea to start your lesson on a high and then introduce something a little bit lower energy and then maybe end the lesson on a high? Now, think about this. Doesn't take too much brain power or time on your part, okay? So if you're planning a reading or something where they're going to be quite passive and still, think about how you can begin the lesson. Even with a lead-in, is there something where they can discuss something or get up to the board, create a mind map? Honestly, it doesn't have to be complicated, and I think I say this quite a lot. It doesn't have to be too innovative either. Use what's already in your toolkit, but just think about those stages in the lesson where you can change the energy, high, low, high, low. And I think the first 5 or 10 minutes is great for a revision game or an activity, which means, you're getting the review in there, and you can do this in the form of a discussion or game or something like that. And then with regards to ending your lesson on a high, sometimes, we run out of time. It happens all the time. So I would say cut whatever task your students are doing short and send them off with a smile on their face. Keep an eye on the clock. Even if you finish just a few minutes before the end of the lesson, what can you do to just get their energy levels up there again? It could be something really silly like an on-the-spot quiz where students have to stand up and shout the answer, a super quick mingle or discussion where students reflect on something, a bit of language that they really like. It doesn't have to be moving around, but just changing the energy in the room from just sitting down and, staring at their book. Focusing, concentrating to something completely different where students are taking a more active role. And you know yourself, when students walk out of the room smiling, it's a gift. It makes you feel good, it makes them feel good. Even if the middle of the lesson was a bit slow, possibly dull, you can redeem yourself 100-fold sending them out with a smile. Conversely, if you have a class that's hyper, could it be a good idea to end your lesson with, bringing them down for the sake of the sanity of the next teacher? Some breathing or something like that. There's no hard and fast rule here. You can go high, low, high, whatever you like. But the principle is always the same. Peaks and valleys, switch up the energy. So that's it. There's not much else to say. Do what works for you and your classes, but I'd like you to go and reflect on this week. Now, I haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to give you a challenge. Think about your last lesson. What were the stages? Do you feel there were peaks and valleys? And now think about your next lesson. Can you make sure there are peaks and valleys? That's it, guys. That's it. Now, I hope you're okay, as per usual. If you haven't subscribed to Everything EFL Podcast, what are you doing with your life? Hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give me a 5-star review on Spotify or iTunes. This helps push me up the ratings. It gets me noticed. Join my Breathe Easy Teacher newsletter community. I'm not going to lie, I've been a little bit inconsistent with sending them, but you'll always get at least 2 a month. It's kind of an extension of this podcast. You'll get advice, tips and support. So, if you do get something out of the podcast, the newsletter, imagine what would happen if you signed up for a free webinar and you had me for a whole hour. And then think about maybe what it would be like to do a course with me. Yes, I am going to talk about my course, the second manifestation of Heart and Craft, the Methodology Mindset Blueprint for Language Teachers. Now, I'm going to be talking about it in the webinar. Of course I am. I'm being transparent. I'll do it at the end, but I will also offer you a discount for the course. It's the only way you're going to get the discount is signing up to the webinar. Okay? There is no obligation to buy the course. I cannot say that enough, okay? But the only way you can get the discount is by watching the webinar. Replays are available, but there will be a limited time for the discount, probably just a few days. So if you're not there to attend in person, watch the replay as quickly as possible. You'll still be able to get the discount. So I'm going to leave you with that. Think about those peaks and valleys. Have a safe and peaceful week, and share the love. Bye.